Decentralization. I don't know if you have heard of any of these companies. I'm sure you've heard of some of them. But I don't know if you can follow why I have grouped them all here together. And not to make a mystery of it, the reason is quite simple. All these companies here are in the news because they have, to various extent, managed to run fairly large organizations without a lot of hierarchy. Okay? It's quite radical. I think one example I want to pick on here is the company called Valve. How many have heard of Valve? A few of you had. The gamers, I suspect. Have you played Counter-Strike or Dota 2? If you played any of these games, you know Valve. Okay, yeah, right. So Valve makes amazing multiplayer online games, which is great fun to play. But more interesting than the games they produce is how they're organized. Valve has a staff of about 500 people now. They have two layers of hierarchy, the CEO and everybody else. Right? Just think about that. A span of control for a CEO with 499 people. Okay? No middle managers. And they've been doing it for 25 years, so you can't dismiss this as a freak. Okay? They are doing this consistently for 25 years. Their per employee revenue is higher than that of Microsoft or Facebook. Okay? So they've been doing this very effectively for a very long time. Why is this important to point out? If you count the number of these firms which have been attempting to be less hierarchical than their peers, in absolute terms, it's a small number. If you add up their market cap, and for many of them, they don't have a market cap. Valve is private. Okay? It's never taken venture capital funding, never gone IPO. It's chosen to remain at 500. It's still a tiny economic phenomenon. But the mind share of these companies is just staggering. There is no top business school in the world today which does not have a case study on one or more of these in the core. Okay? Why is that? I think it's in part because for the first time in our history as a species, we are at an economic point where people's preference for less hierarchical, flatter structures can actually be voiced loudly, right? Another trend which really signals this very strongly is this phenomenon called DAOs. Have you heard of DAOs? Decentralized autonomous organizations? All crypto enthusiasts must have heard of it, right? Bitcoin is a DAO. So what is a DAO? A DAO is a decentralized organization, which means there is no formal hierarchy. So most of the decision making is done by voting, okay? By voting. It's not necessarily one vote per person. It could be that you have multiple votes. In this psychology, it's called a token. So if you have multiple tokens, you can have more voice in the system. But what the goal here is to try and create organizations that can create economic value without actually running a full-scale hierarchy to manage a large system, right? I don't know if this will be successful. That's not my point. My point is not to say every organization will look like a DAO or look like one of these. No. My point is the demand for decentralization in the incoming workforce has never been louder. Okay? And particularly as we get to the next generation of people entering the workforce, Gen Z and beyond, there is no way that you can compete for talent by saying, come join the hierarchy and in 7 years you'll get a promotion and in 14 you'll get another. And if you stay here till you're 50, you might become deputy assistant vice president. That's over. That game is over, right? So we really have to start thinking about what do we do to create decentralized organizations which still retain accountability and control. These are experiments. I don't know if these are going to be successful. So this is part of my research. I study DAOs. I have my own DAO, by the way. It's called Mirror DAO, which is a DAO that tries to study DAOs. Okay? It's going meta here. But the point really is not that this is a valid experiment or we know this is the new model of organizing. We don't know. But what is absolutely clear from the signals is that the demand for decentralized ways of organizing has never been louder. So this is going to change the way we organize. It's going to change how we think about hierarchy, how we think about autonomy, how we think about delegation. So this is going to be extremely, extremely important.